Welcome, guys. Welcome to the community meeting. Uh, I guess we can get started. We have 12 people, and let the others join in as we start. So uh, today is June 11th, and this is the Layer 5 community meeting. And if you haven't already, put down your names on the meeting minutes. The link will be on the chat, and here we have a tradition to welcome newcomers who are joining this call for the first time. So I guess we have a couple of newcomers today. So let's start with Ashish. Ashish, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a second year undergraduate from India, and I'm currently pursuing computer science. And I'm new to open source, and I'm just looking to contribute as soon as possible to this repo project.
Awesome, Ashish. Like, what have you been working on
Uh, I
previously?
I know a bit of web technologies, and I am currently learning these Go languages and some Kubernetes and Dockers.
Awesome. Were you able to get some resources to get started?
I'm reading the resources right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Nice, nice, nice to have you, Ashish.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, nice. Sounds like a gopher in the making. It's,
Awesome. Thank you, Ashish. Next up, we have Jean Tiston. Jean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jean. I'm a web developer, and I'm new to the open source world. So, yeah, I'm trying to see how I can contribute to this community. My tech is Django, Python for the back end, and React for front end. So, yeah.
Gene. Nice. Gene, where are you calling in from?
I'm from the Philippines.
Oh, very good. Very good. So it's 10 a.m. where I am. What is it for you?
It's currently 11 p.m. here.
Good. Yeah, the later the hour, the more the dedication. So good.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, but just think, by the time we're done today, we'll have known each other for 2 days. It'll be
That's true.
oh, nice. Gene, nice to have you. I'm gonna chat at you for a moment, just because. Well, is Josh on? Yeah, Josh was on our last call a few minutes ago. Well, Josh Patel, one of the meshmates, he'll tell you it's unfortunate or fortunate for those that say that they are more front end oriented or have a knack and a focus toward those things. They get pounced on pretty quick because there's so much need for that type of a focus. There's a lot of people who do other great things but lack the talent that you have. so very nice to have you. There's a lot of stuff to wade through and kind of well, like the rest of us, like learn as you go. There's like to help explain it, kind of part of the need and part of where you might be able to get engaged and where you might be able to own a few things and make some decisions and have great experiences and all that is I'll say a couple of words to explain it to you, but also mostly for the benefit of everyone else. And that is that there are, well, I guess about 3 areas of UI centered or front end centered or user experience oriented activities. So one of those is that the community has created 5 or 6 websites because there's a number of different projects that go on, and they, a lot of them use similar tech stack, but not all. So there's some. So I won't. So I'll put a link into the meeting minutes that explains the tech stack of each of the repositories. It's kind of a nice reference to have. So that's one. Another one is that the biggest project here is the Meshery project, and it has a web-based interface or UI, and it is in the process of trying to feel more like a spa or a single-page application. It's trying to feel less, early 2000s of sort of clicky and refreshing the page, more interactive. So it actually needs a bit of an overhaul. There's Ayush who's on the phone. There's a bunch of people on the phone actually who are on the meeting who would be good people to be introduced to because they're kind of focused on. So it's a slightly different, like it's a web UI, but it's not a website, and so different designs, different goals, different user flows that happen. And then the third way is there's a bunch of somewhat random and ad hoc designs that need to be done between trying to promote the community members and what they do, trying to create new logos and those sorts of things. So anyway, welcome. Nice to have you. If people are really friendly with you, there's a reason why.
Thank you. That sounds really exciting. So much is happening, and so much I can contribute to, I hope.
Cool. Good. Yeah. Don't be, as an encouragement to you and then to the other newcomers as well, as be tenacious, or don't let a lack of a response from anyone stop you. Like that would only be because they're busy, not because you shouldn't be asking on about something. You should. So nice to have.
Yeah, and I think everybody's in a different time zone.
Yeah, there needs to be some grace for that. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you, Jean. Nice to meet you. Next up, we have Muskan Kedia. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello all. I am Muskan, and I am a recent graduate with my major in computer science. And actually, I am an open source enthusiast and an admin of the GSOC project Bench Routes. It is basically a monitoring application quite similar to Prometheus, we can say, and but with having some of the different ideas like goals that we think Prometheus doesn't cover up. So we want to implement that now in our project. And also, like, I came across Messery like just 2 or 3 days back, and I was quite fascinated with the entire idea. So diving more deeper into it to start making some meaningful contributions to the organization. That was all about me.
Yeah, nice, Muskan. Let's catch up. Like I can see why. Yeah, a cool project, bench routes. Like I can see the relationship and part of the somewhat similar focus or related focuses. And so,
yeah.
And I'm really happy to hear that somebody saying Prometheus doesn't work. So that might
No, I didn't say that Prometheus doesn't work. It's already a very huge project, and it's not possible like all the features available in this possible can be implemented in a single project. So something we found that
Thank you, Muskan. Next we have Namanpreet. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone. I am Namanpreet Kaur, and I am a final year student pursuing BTech and Computer Science and Engineering. And I have an interest in artificial intelligence field, and I like to work in Python. And I am new to open source, so I doesn't understand much the terms that you all are using. But I would like to be a good contributor. So I think this is a great place to start. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a great place to start. I think you are in the right place.
Yeah, thank you.
That was Namanpreet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you, Nampreet. Next up, we have Prasanna. Prasanna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah. So yeah, I'm Prasanna. So I work in a company. So I mostly as a DevOps engineer for almost like 7 years. Uh, this is what open source is new to me, and then I want to contribute more. So there are some places where I did, but as a document thing. But I mostly use all the tools, like all the things. And I was reading about this history of open running book. So I found this. I mean, like Lee. I was going through his profile. So I later found that he's been working on this layer 5 and measuring thing. So I thought like let me introduce into the community, and then like I want to contribute more on this part.
Prasanna, I guess we have to start off with an apology. If you're reading Istio up and running, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If it's putting you to sleep at night, then I'm sorry. So no, but that's fantastic. Prasanna, it's wonderful to have you. Earlier, did you mention Argo as an example of something that you spend time
Oh
with?
yeah. We not Argo. I mean like I do the POC in the company for the Argo. So we mostly use Elm, and then like Kubernetes and Terraform provider itself to deploy it. Yeah, so I do have few bit knowledge on Python, and then I mean I'm more knowledge on Python, but sometimes Terraform providers like using Go language. So but not very frequent, like something.
Yeah, curious. By the way, just so that everyone, like if it wasn't obvious from the discussion with Gene about the softer side or the front end side of some things, and how like if it wasn't obvious that's very much so needed here, it should hopefully after this it'll be really obvious that like there's so much to do across the projects and in the community that so this isn't a reflection on what Gene might do, but just toward Prasanna, that like so much to do that isn't code or that is close to code, but not exactly. And so actually it's very Prasanna again, like there's a number of, well, I'll abuse the term and say DevOps centric,
Okay.
operation centric things. Actually, Jubril is on the call. While he does have a gopher badge on a tattoo on his forehead, he also has been focused on a bunch of, or on some really interesting GitHub workflows, which I'm hoping that he and I might give a talk on at a conference. And so point is, it's refreshing to have an operations focused individual on the call. Samir is on the call, who's also somewhat operationally oriented.
Okay.
And so good. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for jumping in. It's good to have you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Prasanna. I guess that's all the newcomers we have on the call today. If I missed anybody else, would you like to introduce yourself? Yeah, I guess, yeah, that was it. So, welcome again, all. So, we do have a newcomers meeting every week. It happens on Thursday, and yeah, you can join it next week, I guess, to get started. And if every one of you must have access to a Layer 5 community calendar. If not, you can just let us know on the chat, and someone will fix that up for you. So let's get started with today's agendas. First, we have Utkarsh. Utkarsh, would you like to talk about your recent design spec?
Yep. Let me drop a link for the design spec first. Yeah, so this is a design spec. This is about integrating pattern files and mixing data. So I've been demoing pattern files for a while now. This is about linking the data that is produced by pattern files and the meshing data. Meshing is basically meshing mechanism to basically collect all of the data from the Kubernetes cluster. It basically collects all of the information that what all resources are deployed on the cluster so that we can make sense of it in the mesh server itself. So this spec is basically about that how when resources get produced by pattern files, they are basically when get created by pattern files, how we can interrelate those resources with the data that is being collected by meshing. So this is a very small spec. This spec is somewhat outdated. Today, I and Abhishek were on call where we decided to make some changes to it. So this will change. Yeah, you guys can check out the update later. And let me describe the update. So the idea is that we will actually store the name of the pattern attribute that we have, the namespace in which the resource was deployed, the way that it was created. So for example, was the pattern file applied by you, or was it picked up from GitHub? Because we actually provide the function. The functionality was recently added to patterns that you can now in fact import all of the patterns from your repository. Mystery will make sure that traverses the entire repository and grab all of the pattern files and then apply it for you. So that's also a functionality that's available. So it will keep track if your pattern, where your pattern file actually came from. It could be meshmap also, which is actually a designer, which basically it will be visual designer where you can actually design and then deploy your patterns right from there. So this is all of the attributes that we'll be keeping track of, and some other metadata that what the pattern looked like and what the OM type was. And then this is the ID. So the previous spec, the spec that is being written here, this actually had the idea, had the notion that we will be packing all of these information in the Kubernetes annotations, and then we'll pass and then we'll pass it along to every resource that pattern file actually creates. For example, if you're creating an application that leads to creation of a Kubernetes service and Argo rollout, then we will actually pass on those annotations to those resources so that we can keep track of. But today, after like we and Abhishek, I and Abhishek basically got a call and basically we're inclining towards actually passing along only the ID, which is the UUID, which will be the UUID, and let meshsync basically capture all of these information in the database for us. That is, so we have something like okay. I don't think I have it available here. But the thing is, the idea is that Mesh server will only capture the UUID in the annotation, in the Kubernetes annotation. The adapters will actually take in those annotations. The adapter will take in those annotations and then will pass it to the Kubernetes cluster, and then those resources will be created. Now, when Mesh Sync basically reads those resources, for example, it's reading the Kubernetes service, it will see that, hey, there is an ID, there's a field called ID. It will create a mesh sync object. Mesh sync object is a generic representation which mesh uses to actually track all of the metadata associated with the Kubernetes object. So basically, mesh sync is going to grab all of those metadata and feed it in there, and now send that thing to the mesh server. And now mesh server is basically keep track of that particular resource, just like it keeps track of other mesh sync objects. So basically, in this way, what we achieve is that mesh sync does its responsibility. It plays its role. That is, it identifies all of the resources, and then it packs it up and sends it to mesh server. Now, mesh server doesn't have to do anything else other than storing it in the database. That is exactly what mesh does even today. So basically, this particular new change, which mostly Abhishek suggested, streamlined a lot of process and actually basically made responsibilities quite more clear. Now, mesh server just creates the ID, and let other things are being handled by the mesh sync on the other side. So this is a quite small spec. The changes that I described, they are not represented here because we got a call about 30 minutes ago. so I didn't have time to update this. But this, all the changes that I was describing, this will be reflected there also very soon. Does anyone know? And I hope I was audible.
What's that? Were you talking? Okay, bad joke. So Utkarsh, did you mention that did you mention a recent conversation that you had with another maintainer and potential changes forthcoming?
Yeah, I and Abhishek were on call for a few hours, to say the least, and there we actually discussed this entire thing. So, and it was more about how we can not replicate this thing everywhere and pass along this baggage to every Kubernetes resource, and rather what we will do is just tag an ID, a UUID, so that we can capture different instances of the resources being created by the Mesh server via patterns, and let MeshSync actually get the understanding of what the ID is, and then create the packet. So basically, that's what we arrived at, that these metadata should not be actually propagated via a Kubernetes annotation. Rather, MeshSync is going to be quite more intelligent in terms of attaching patterns metadata.
Nice, good. I got that last part.
I'll actually probably will be able to describe it more clear in this way. I couldn't get time to beat this thing before the call.
Nice. So by the way, does anybody want more context on this topic, or would you rather just have some time to digest it onto your own?
I would like to know some more basic information, like what are patterns, what are pattern files. So you can point me to that. So I'm just think I'm a zero in this. I'm I mean, like in a lot of other things, but
yeah, sorry, VJ, I'm sorry. I chuckled because I thought you said, just consider that I'm zero. You know, I'm starting from ground zero on this. And I thought you said that you don't know a lot of other things, which made me chuckle because that's not true. And so anyway, I didn't mean to interject. I just wanted to explain why I was laughing. So VJ, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, I gotta believe that everybody else most other people on the call are in about the same position that you are with respect to understanding what a pattern is. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is because, well, we made it up. so you know, yeah. And okay, Navendu, time me if you would. Like, maybe let's cut me off after 5 minutes, and then that way. And Utkarsh, do you want to take another crack at it, or would you like for me to?
I can try, but probably will have to fill in. So yeah, basically the idea of pattern, what pattern is right now is basically you get to create some YAMLs in which you can specify. You can basically specify that how you want to configure your service mesh, or so configuring service mesh is one aspect of it. That is definitely you can provision a service mesh, you can configure MTLS on it, you can configure automatic sidecar injection on it. The other resource, the other aspect of it is which is not shown in this particular pattern file, is that you can actually provision, basically deploy your applications via pattern files. That is, you can specify that, hey, I want to provision, I want to deploy this particular application onto my cluster, and that application actually looks like this. This is the Docker image that is supposed to be deployed there. You would be soon able to even specify that, hey, I want to do canary rollout, and this is the way that you should be doing it. That is, pass only 2% traffic to it, then wait for this much time, or run this analysis and then promote it to the promote it to 10% traffic, wait for some time. So basically stuff like that. So it's a pattern files in general can represent a lot of things. There are multiple, as I was saying, multiple aspects. Okay, I think that was disturbance. So yeah, you can actually specify multiple things in patterns. One of it is configuring mesh, which is I'm showing here. I'm not sure if we have one for rollout. This is an older pattern file. This may not be valid for others, but this also shows another aspect of patterns, and that is you can actually specify that, hey, you want to deploy a application. It's this Docker image. Run it on this these particular ports, and now you want to do canary on it. That is, if it's a first instance, do not do canary. If you are upgrading it to version 6, let's say, then what would happen is that only 20% traffic would be sent to your new canary instance, while the rest would be sent to the older stable version, and then it will wait for 20 seconds, and then will send 40%, then wait for 10 seconds, and wait. So basically, this is another aspect of parent file. If that, I hope that made sense.
So is it application specific, or does every it can be used for more? Can it be used for more than one? Say for instance, a pattern file for deployment, a pattern file for configuration. Is it application specific, or would it be user specific? Or say if you want to deploy something for a particular, well, I mean, we're talking about cloud, so there's no such thing as deploying for a person, right? But does each application have a different pattern file?
So it will sort of, you can stuff in all of your deployments in a same pattern file, or you can split it up. So it's not a restriction that's being enforced by pattern files. So you can see that here I'm describing that my name of the application is actually SVC, the type is rollout. What you can do is you can just add another field called SVC1, specify the type as rollout, and just basically you can even copy and paste this thing. So what it will do is it will create an application for you called SVC1, and it will available on this particular port if this port is actually available for you. So this is not a restriction that's being enforced by patterns. You can split it up or keep it in the same pattern as per the need. I hope that was a question I had.
Yeah, to give more information to that, so these pattern files are more like, from a ISTO perspective, or maybe service mesh perspective, not from an application perspective. So whatever you want to see in your service mesh, you can put them into these pattern files, and you can do all of the things what you want to do from the YAML. Maybe you can do it from here.
That is in part true. Although Gaurav is going to expand on what Samir said, and he's going to show us how pattern files can be used for applications, which is the line that it's actually, it ends up being both. It ends up being quite, yeah. Let me. Yep. It ends up being quite deep on applications as well. Gaurav,
quick question. Okay, so when I have a pattern file, I give that to Mesh Server. What exactly happens internally? I mean, it might be a long answer, but like, what's the short answer? Like, what really happens behind the scenes?
The short answer is see the Zoom chat with the link to the Mesh architecture deck. It's slide 9.
Oh, sure.
Because it's a little bit involved. In essence, to answer Jubro's question, when Meshry is presented with a pattern file, it creates a series of workflows we don't use the term around these parts much, but it creates a series of workflows to orchestrate the instantiation of your infrastructure, interfacing like primarily with Kubernetes. And so it creates a directed acyclic graph, a DAG, that the DAG's more responsibility is more or less to understand and identify the sequence by which the various components of the various pieces of infrastructure and configuration for that infrastructure needs to happen within that pattern. And so it passes it. So it passes along to mesh adapters and yeah. So let's do something else, because I'm sensitive to the fact that some of us on the call are still asking the very first question, which is, what's a pattern again? Like, we're not curious about the technical details of like how it is that Meshery, digests them and what it does in terms of like, there's a lot to that. But to first start over here, I think is, so Navendu 5 minutes. And Navendu, like Mr. Patel, if he's on, is one of the few people that feels at leisure to just cut me off, which is great. So for everyone here, you've got some level of familiarity with Meshery as a service mesh manager. One of the things that Meshery does, it seems it's kind of a prominent feature at the moment, but it's kind of a side note. It's a really powerful side note. And the side note is that of the things that Meshery does, it's able to do them across any service mesh. That's part of the goal. Part of the belief of the project, the kind of the vision is that even though certain service meshes will enjoy more popularity and more use, that the world won't be made up of just one. Like that's a fact today and will be for a long time. So of the things that Meshery does, these capabilities need to be written in such a way that they broadly, it won't always be the case for every single little thing, but broadly Meshery needs to be able to do the same things across all the meshes. In part, it never will, because each service mesh isn't made equal. They are made similar, but they do different things. And so Meshery doesn't orchestrate in the lowest common denominator fashion. It tries to embrace the proprietary capabilities of each service mesh and empower people to use them in an easier way. One of the easier ways to harness the capabilities of a mesh is through a pattern file. It's like a simple set of YAML that says, maybe you'd like to use a service mesh to define timeouts. So if you've ever visited a website and you're seeing the spinner on the website and you're waiting for it to come back, and like you're wondering, should I refresh my page? Should I give it another 30 seconds and waste my life? Should I just leave? Should I well, thankfully, like the further that we go into the future here, the more intelligent infrastructure like service meshes will be pervasive, and the more that people will be using things like timeouts to intelligently prevent you from having to wait when a web page is or isn't going to come back. Like hopefully the infrastructure answers that question for you and does the right thing. But how do the people that are running that infrastructure know when a timeout should be set or not, and for how long? And like that answer actually changes, and it changes sometimes real time based upon what services are running and based upon a lot of other signals. And so service meshes are quite complex. And so is running this infrastructure to help make it easier and to help people be comfortable and answer the question of whether or not they're doing it right. It's nice when you're able to ask and have answered, like, am I doing this right? How are other people doing it? What's the common pattern for configuring a timeout or configuring any of this stuff? And sometimes you're looking for a template. Sometimes you're like, look, I'm comfortable with the template. We've customized it. I'm comfortable with the pattern. We've customized it. We have our own. We've tweaked it. Now I want to make sure that our infrastructure runs in this way, or that it dynamically responds in accordance with some parameters that you've defined. Now I'm getting too abstract. Part of the point here is that we spend a lot of time in the CNCF, and within there, we're trying to curate a set of what these patterns are. Part of doing so is because well, I'll say we, like collectively, are writing a book, Service Mesh Patterns. So this is like the next book to be produced, and there'll probably be two. This one being foundational patterns and the other one being advanced. Right now, there's about 60 patterns that we think will be defined. And when they are defined, they'll be published publicly. Well, not only in the book, but just on GitHub as well. Meshery is the tool that will be used to implement each of these patterns. So that's what Utkarsh is showing, is that you can feed Meshery these patterns and it will let you experiment with them, let you run your infrastructure in that way. And the patterns need to be quite expressive. They need to be able to describe what workloads it is that you want to onboard onto the mesh, what service mesh you want, what version and how you want it configured. And boy, that's a mouthful. Like that goes on forever. And so, yeah, the other things to look at as everyone sort of digests this is that if I can stop talking, Soham might show the fact that the intention is for Meshery to visualize these, what a pattern looks like. So if you looked at like, what does the circuit breaking pattern look like in my environment? Like this is a mock-up, but like, here's what my environment looks like. It's these interconnected set of nodes. And I want to define when a circuit should break, like when the infrastructure should do something. I want to apply this pattern. And so Meshery, outside of just YAML, Meshery intends to visualize these things. And so, yeah, I'll stop there. I expect, like, for my part, I expect this is going to be a really intriguing area of capabilities that people will be interested in using Meshery for.
So, Lee, one question. So, would we be able to deploy an application with these pattern files?
Gaurav, you're queued, man. That's like.
Yeah, definitely. We are working on deploying our applications. So, yeah, it's currently work in progress. So, should I share my screen?
And the next part to this, how does it get different from a manifest ML, Kubernetes manifest ML?
Yeah. So currently we are managing all the workloads from the machine itself in the pattern. Currently I'm logged in with my Windows, so won't be able to show a workable. So yeah, here what the basic UI of the Meshery applications would look like. So the user would be able to manage and make changes in their applications through this. And Samir, what was your question about basically about the application management?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Yeah.
This is great. So Samir, this is proof that Meshery will treat applications as a first-class citizen. But in answer to your other question, what's the difference between how you describe an application using a pattern file and how you describe an application using like a Kubernetes manifest or a Helm chart?
Yeah.
The short answer is.
So what's the value I would get by using a pattern files over a deployment manifest from Kubernetes?
Yep. Soham, do you want to share? Like, one of the advantages is that you can describe your service mesh, its configuration, the workloads that you want onboarded on there or to be running on there, and like the fact that you might want to run a performance test at the same time, as well, like while you're performing a canary, and maybe the strategy of the canary is not duration based, but maybe performance based in terms of how you roll out that canary, that you can describe all that in one file. That's one advantage.
But it also I can do in the manifest with using like breakers like 3 hyphens and then write another manifest with uh, like the CRD of the ISTO. Then I can also explain like maintain my canary deployment information there.
Yep. No, you can't do you can kind of do your canary deployment information in Istio, but you'd actually need to engage a different tool to like run the canary. So like Flagger or Argo or
okay.
something
okay.
else. You also couldn't describe a performance test in there either. And the fact that maybe you'd want for Meshry to generate some load or Meshry to replay traffic that it had captured of your use, like real traffic captured from your users that you'd like to replay as part of the canarying of your next release. None of the meshes do that. Or to generate load, like maybe just generate synthetic load to measure it and then have that be part of the gating criteria as to whether or not the canary continues.
Okay.
And to potentially describe that, like I said, like all in one file potentially, or you can break it out into multiple files. From an applications perspective, Meshry isn't necessarily intending to, like the app, isn't really trying to bring a bunch of special sauce to the management of applications just yet. So you can interchange, you don't need to rewrite you can take your Kubernetes manifests and load them here, and Meshry will deal with converting them from manifest to pattern file format. And so then it'll also let you retrieve them in pattern file format or back in manifest format.
Yeah, that's useful. Yeah.
Yeah, Meshry will also, you can connect it to, like I'm saying some of this that it can currently do. It's very early. Like I expect there's probably bugs in some of what I'm saying. And some of what I'm saying is just about to come forth, but you can connect Meshry to your GitHub repo or repos and have it pull in your manifest from there. So it makes that convenient and kind of helps you. And it'll also end up interfacing with, Meshry is not intended necessarily to be the source of truth for a lot of things, including the definition of your application. So we would bidirectionally interface with GitHub to the extent that you ended up making a configuration change to your application here, that it would help facilitate a pull request or just simply do a push or what have you to, I keep saying GitHub, but to your source control. So these are helpful things. I think those are compelling things, but one of the things that's really compelling about it, I think, is that you can visually configure your application in MeshMap and in an extension to Meshry.
So the mesh map works on the pattern files?
Yeah, directly. Directly, it interprets and reads the pattern. As a matter of fact,
Great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No, Samir, these are good questions. There's many more questions to be asked and answered. So, Gaurav or Soham, do you guys want to complete the answer?
Yeah, my answer was going to be the same as you just said. I know that pattern files just lets you visualize everything and design everything, because the whole mesh map architecture is basically built around patterns and JSON. So yeah, that is a very important thing, I guess.
But rather through demonstration. I don't know if you guys want to.
Yeah, sure. If you want, I can share my screen and just give a short demo.
Yep, so that would be great. And you can also talk about your recent changes.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So talking about pattern files in Meshry UI, you can upload your pattern files over to a dedicated page. This page facilitates you to edit your pattern files and upload them, view them, basically the CRUD operations. But inside MeshMap, we have a designer pane in the designer view, which lets you see all of the patterns that you have uploaded. And once you have uploaded a pattern file, you can just visualize your pattern files inside your canvas, and then you can basically play with it, like draw edges, and then you can add the protocol and the port number for the edge. It basically does all that. Maybe if you want to create copies of edge, you can do that also. And the other thing is that if you don't want it, you can just reset everything and it just goes back. Now, if you are satisfied with your design, for example, if you have such a design and you're satisfied with it, you can either save it as a new pattern file, which would be shown here if you click save. And the other thing which was talked about earlier by Utkarsh is the deploy feature, which is here, that if you want, you can directly apply or deploy your design using this button over here. So pattern files is what mesh map is built upon, I guess, if I'm not wrong. That's for the demo right now. Coming to the updates. So last time we saw that we could create edges and etc. So this time I'm going to present a slightly different thing, which is filter, which I guess we had a discussion on Tuesday or maybe last meshmap meeting. So we know that we can drop nodes onto the canvas. Now we can also drag and drop filters over a node, and then as soon as we drop filters over a node, we get a tooltip which prompts us to basically configure our filter. And also, yeah, this is something that I started working on very recently, so it has a couple of bugs. For example, there should be an SVG which is currently not loading, and also I had to implement something called as JSON form schema, which basically creates this form automatically by identifying the filter that I am picking up and by identifying the node that I'm dropping it on, which I will work upon right now. But yeah, right now you can drag and drop filters upon nodes. So that was the update.
Yeah, so I'm really sorry if I'm asking so many questions. So I just try to understand now, as you told, we can deploy an application with a pattern file. So once I do a deployment with a pattern file, if I go to kubectl describe, will I be able to see that from the kubectl command prompt, or should I go to istoctl, or where should I go to messeryctl to see the configurations?
I guess Lee can take up that question. Yeah, or
Yeah,
maybe you can do
all three.
All three of them.
Okay.
We also plan to bring about something related to that, but I guess I should not reveal that before it's built. So I'll keep quiet.
Yeah, because why I ask is toggling between the command line tools would be sometimes difficult, because it is very habituated for a Kubernetes administrator to go with kubectl commands to get some.
Yeah, so we actually will try to create features which will let you do everything over mesh map. You will not need to go anywhere else than mesh map. You'll be able to do everything that you can on mesh map, be it kubectl, be it deploying application, be it visualizing, be it designing. That is what we intend to do in a stretch goal.
Okay.
So just maybe a silly doubt. Just trying to understand it. So when you drag this Istio components like service deployments, and then you apply, does it create a new service? I mean, with and then is that right? I mean, any sort of services.
Yeah, if the like for now, I guess Utkarsh had created the endpoints for applying the patterns, and for now the application pattern that gets deployed is currently um, what should I say, restricted in a sense. Lee, I guess you can help me explain it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think the answer, I think if I read past what Prasanna was asking, it's sort of that there's two modes to mesh map. So the mode that Soham is kind of walking us through is the designer mode, in which you're really not looking at live infrastructure, but you're going through the process of visually configuring how you want for your virtual services to be configured, how you want for your service mesh to run and be configured.
Okay.
And then you can, like you can tell, like this is an early project, but so you can save it or apply it and have it, and that. But there's a second mode, and I don't know that Soham's system is set up to be able to show this very well at the moment, but if you can show the details pane, there's sort of the left-hand side, we have this designer pane where you go into, designing your, doing what we just said. On the right-hand side is more of what you might be used to from other visual topology tools. So this mode is the visualizer mode, and it would be showing you what is actively running and metrics on your current deployment. And so you just switch between read-only mode, so to speak, visualizer mode and designer mode. And it doesn't have data loaded, but mesh sync, but Meshry talks to Kubernetes, talks to each of the service meshes. It keeps track of what they're doing, what's going on. And so it shows you that here, which I think is in part what you were asking, Prasanna.
Oh, yeah. So I understood now. So it's more like a visualization now. So later we may have like proper application behind the screen like when we apply. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Soham. That was a long discussion with all of us. Yeah, Lee, go ahead.
Just to answer Samir's question verbally, and that is, the short answer is yes. That what's in, and this is why when people like Gene show up, it starts to get really exciting, because there's so much to do visually that, so Samir, yes is the answer to not only in MeshMap in that plugin, but also just in your pattern files, if you want to, that you'd be able to describe your auth-n and your auth-z config. Like you'd be able to describe, and if that has to deal with a filter, like an envoy filter, that also is describable inside of a pattern file, which means that inherently it's visualizable. Oh my gosh, that's not a word, but you can visualize that in MeshMap as well. And so such that when you drag and drop, actually, Soham, I don't think you showed filters in the demo, but when you drag and drop a filter over, like let's say that you're configuring your service mesh, you drop over a filter, and that filter deals with authorization and authentication. That of what Soham had shown was that there was a pop-up to further configure that particular entity on the map. And so, yeah, and so MeshMap itself is entirely ignorant of what things are possible to configure. And how does it know whether or not to show you a pop-up of the port and protocol and other stuff? It's like, well, it doesn't. It just it just looks to the pattern file. It just looks to mesh sync, what mesh sync has discovered and knows about the custom, like to use Samir's vernacular, like the custom resources that are in Kubernetes. So I know that there's some, I know that there's some blanks here, some blank spots in some people's minds as to how this goes. It's kind of a lot to explain. It's a work in progress. And as people show like one-off things that are being worked on, it's not the full story. And so but the questions are fantastic. Please keep the questions coming. So. Navendu, I don't know if we have.
Yeah, as we are running out of time, Lee, like, did you want to talk about changing the format of the meeting?
Yeah. So hey, we're right at the top of the hour. We we meet at least once a day on various topics. We're going to kick off the first WebAssembly focused meeting on Monday. And if, by the way, if you want to know what all the meetings are, you can just go to meet.layer5.io and it will bring you to this calendar and tell you some info about each of the meetings, what's going on. So so Samir, very much so, like, your use case is on the agenda. I think it's the first thing on the agenda and if you can make this, oops, it's got the wrong link, or I clicked the wrong one, but if you can make the meeting, please do. If not, we'll be capturing your use case. Yeah, it is the wrong link.
Yeah, I'll be attending that. So it's already on my high priority.
Oh, good. Nice. What was I trying to say? Yeah, is that we run these meetings and the meetings have some amount of consistency to them. We make bad jokes. We welcome new people. We do demos. We there's like, but I wonder if this is your meeting as much as anyone else's. And so maybe it's really boring. Maybe it's too complex. Maybe it's too simple. Maybe we should incorporate like standing sections, standing topics in the meeting, like a short tutorial on something, and not given from me necessarily, but from any of you, or I don't know, like, just, I wanted to raise up that question, have people think about if we should change how these get run. And so think about it. I don't know that. I had any specific suggestions other than just like one quick suggestion is when we have the Meshery development call every Wednesday. Well, there's a bunch of components to Meshery. There've been a lot of people working on Meshery CTL, the command line client. It's been fantastic. And there's a spreadsheet that tracks all the feature functions of Meshery CTL, the command line client. And so it had been decided not too long ago that every meeting we should spend just 5 minutes to look at that spreadsheet so that we know that we're tracking all of those changes very well. And so that's just an example of what I meant by having some recurring topics potentially. Like in this one, like on this one, geez, should we be using this one to hear presentations from external projects? Like, and we've done a bunch of them in the past. So we had Caverno recently, bring someone from Argo or from other related projects that we interface with. I've known the Prometheus co-founders, just as an example, because Prometheus was on here for 5 years now. Like there isn't a project maintainer that we don't have a relationship with. I think you'd be challenged to find one that we don't know. And so they're more than willing to come and present. And so maybe that should be like half of what we spend this time on. I don't know, just thinking aloud with all of you. Okay, that's it for me.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, like we can get back on that on Slack. Like if you have suggestions or if you have any more ideas to what Lee just mentioned, like reach out on Slack. With that, I guess we are over time with our meeting. So we have missed a couple of items. One was Abhishek's demo on Meshery error codes. So we actually had a demo from Michael last week on the error code. So I urge you to look at it. because it is being used throughout all of layer 5 project, all of Meshery projects or Meshery components. So if you are looking to contribute to Meshery, then we have a recording of it on the last week's call. So it's in the meeting minutes, and we also missed on Jubril's progress update on the GitHub action. So I guess Jubril will be talking about it on Slack. He will update us with his progress. With that, today's meeting comes to an end. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye guys.
Bindu.
Bye. Bye guys.
Bye all. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.